Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome. Beautiful evening. I guess we're competing with the good weather. Maybe that's the case. Okay.
About that.
We'll let the secretary note that one member of the board is absent, trustee Jacquard, all other members of the board are present. And we have an agenda that went out ahead of time. Does anyone have any changes to the agenda? I have one. We were going to discuss the maintenance bids, but it appears that that happened. Josh is not here anyway, so I'd like to take that off the old business piece. Okay.
What was it for? I'm sorry.
The bids for maintenance, remember Josh was going to straighten that out, but obviously the grass.
Oh,
The grass is getting.
I've got a contract here,
Oh, you do, yeah. Okay, all right, so we can talk about that then.
if you want. Yep.
Any other changes to that? No. Okay, then I entertain a motion to accept the agenda, to adopt the agenda.
I'll make that motion.
Second? Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Everyone had received by email before the minutes from 7/23, our regular minutes. Are there any comments, changes, or corrections to those minutes? No? So they are official. I will entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, second? Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, good. Moving on, I have a couple of items from the standpoint of my report that I normally give to everyone. A couple of things. I got some clarification from our attorney regarding the bond that is necessary. It's called a public officer's surety bond. And that is one that we need to obtain on our treasurer. Colin is familiar with this, working on it. Basically, the board sets the face amount of this bond. Attorney is suggesting it roughly is the same amount as the balances at the highest point of the year in our account. So probably when we get the payment from the school board and get that big infusion, that would bring us up to probably one of the highest numbers
Extremely high.
that we would necessarily want to have that. So we can choose the amount we want to buy. He's suggesting at least 100,000. I'm suggesting that you, Colin, and I can work out the amount and present it to the future board meeting for approval, if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what we'll do, moving that forward, okay? The second item I wanted to get clarification on from our attorney, and I will just state it again, is the training requirements. There was a little bit of confusion as to what the period of time is when that training is supposed to take place. So clearly, he's saying that the basic training, not the sexual harassment training, is running at the same time as the term of office. So for each of our terms of office, within that period of time that you're a board member, each year, you've got to get that 2 hours of basic training. The sexual harassment training has been either the fiscal year or the calendar year. He is suggesting that we go based on the fiscal year. And I think that makes sense, and that will keep them both on the same track. So I think we should take Robert's advice and just base it on sexual harassment training on the fiscal year. And I'm the one that keeps a track of that. So when you complete sexual harassment training during this fiscal year, provide me with some proof of that you've done it. And I will update a spreadsheet that we will then keep in our files to make sure that everyone gets that training. Okay, that's a mandated training issue.
You just forward the email that says you complete the
That'd
certificate
be
in
fine.
email.
That's all-
You need to
that's all
do
I
that.
need. You're basically
Yeah.
self-certified, yeah. I'm not-
Okay, no, I
Nobody's gonna chase
just
it
wondered how to
down.
get it to you.
And then the third thing that's happening, we did have a social media policy introduced last time.
Mhm.
And we suggested to get that reviewed by our attorney. I'm still waiting a response from Robert. I pulsed him again a couple of days ago, but haven't heard anything. We'll have that for the next meeting. And then lastly, for those of you who are members of the public here, we do plan to have an executive session tonight. And we will do that after we have public comment, and then we'll come back in and adjourn the meeting. So that is my report. And I have a copy of that for you, Madam Secretary, because you asked me to do that for you.
Thank you.
How's that? Okay. Okay, moving on to the VP for Finance column. You're up.
Everybody should have in front of them the bills for the month.
What's this one?
Couple things that we've had to pay, so in case anybody wants to look at it and see. Like we paid the water bill last month, and then the check didn't get cut one day late, so I got the check back. Now we gotta reinstate a new check with the penalty, which is kind of too bad. Another big error was with the compensation insurance funds that we were having. I don't know who you can really blame, Del Lorenzo Accounting, somewhat, probably our postal service somewhat, and then emails that weren't coming to us, they were going to Courtney Care. So anyways, we have a $538 fine. And Del Lorenzo Accounting, when I got another talking to them today, they've got it reduced down to $250. And they feel somewhat that it's part of their error, so they're going to split it with us. We are going to pay the $250, but they're going to reimburse us $125 of it, just so anybody knows that now.
And where does that show up on this list, Paul?
It's like fourth up from the bottom, Ted. The state insurance.
New York State Central, I got it. Okay, thank you.
So anyways, other than that, it's pretty cut and dry. I had to add one tonight because the lights upstairs and the outlets are done, and we received an invoice today, so that's why I had to handwrite that in on the report.
No problem.
I don't know if there's anything else that sticks out there, if anybody's got a question on it. Patricia Weber did get the check sent right to me, and I give it to Marion, so she's all set for Thursday night in regards to that.
Okay,
And the only thing that isn't on there right at the moment is, and we're gonna have to do something by the last day of this month for new insurance, because our insurance policy runs out, as everybody knows. So I guess we discussed that, and that will have to be added on to this bill.
okay, and we'll discuss that under the old business.
Yep, that's
Okay.
fine. Thank you.
Okay, and then the other report that we get regularly shows deposits that we have in total that were made, and then the standing in terms of our account. Now, I'm looking at this in terms of the interest-bearing checking account, 187.40. That got reduced because of last month's bills. We moved that
Correct.
money over.
You asked to put some more money in there, Ted, and that's
And
what we did.
we'll continue to do that. Okay, so we're still, but we're earning a pretty good interest on
Yeah, we are.
that particular amount, which was a good thing since we weren't earning any interest before. So,
Real good.
Right, and are we gonna talk about the CDs tonight? I don't know if you remember I mentioned to you, Tammy said
They're
that
not due till October.
October, right?
Right,
So
I
we
thought
have-
next month, that way I can get some information from the bank of if 6 months is as good as it was, or do we want to go to a year and see whatever.
sure,
But I've got that for next month. Thank you, Mary.
yeah, sure. Yeah, I think we have that discussion at the next meeting. There may be other ways to,
Yeah,
Increase
but at
the
least I'll get
earnings
some
on that.
ideas of who's paying what and
okay.
which way to go.
Okay, so basically this, public library expense report from Colin, we as a board need to approve those warrants. Is there any other question or discussion about this?
No.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion to approve the report from our treasurer and approve these warrants for payment.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, second,
A second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you. Secretary's report.
I have nothing to report.
Nothing to
Well, I
report.
have one thing to report, and that is that we had we've been talking about going through the policies and making sure that they are up to date. Some of them are, some of the past policies have not been signed or are not signed and dated in our records. So now that the strategic planning committee is done, I'm going to start just going through the policies one by one and making sure that they are right and they are signed and they are dated. If they're not signed and dated, then we probably need to just vote on them again, just to make that all okay.
And some of them need to be updated.
Some of them need to be updated, so I'm just gonna go through, if I see something that I think needs updated, I'll bring it up to the board. but that will sort of be my project for this year, going through all the policies.
And one of the things I noticed, when you look at them on the website,
Mhm,
it doesn't appear to be in any particular order, A,
mhm.
and that offends my engineering sensibilities, but B is, there's a lot of different headers and things, and maybe we can just agree on what the right header for the policy ought to be, and from then on, all of them carry that. Does that make sense?
It makes a certain amount of sense. I mean,
Okay,
if
certain amount of
if
sense,
it,
thank
if it, if it means just going through everything and making it look pretty, maybe that's not the top priority.
No,
But I can take a look, if
Okay.
it's a simple matter of replacing a headline, but I mean, if it's like, we have to retype everything.
No, I don't think we do. Some of them have a crazy header, some of them have none. It's like,
Right, and some of them have our logo.
So would you just like them to be alphabetized on the
I
website?
don't know. I was thinking
I don't know
more,
how
I
else
was
we
thinking
could-
more they might be in the order that they were adopted, as a possibility.
Okay.
They could-
I don't know,
I don't know, you
I
decide.
can look at whether there's a
I don't
logic
think
to it.
alphabetizing that would make it easy to find them.
We could do that. Yeah, that's true. Why not? Why not? But anyway, that, you got that, so
I'll start looking at it.
we're not gonna micromanage you on that. How's that? Okay.
Okay.
Okay, managers report.
Okay,
And that, you all have this in front of you.
yes, and there's attachments as usual. There's the deposit slips for, the cash drawer deposits. And the most current, statement of activity for July and then the actuals, for the year. I just got those a couple of hours ago. There was some confusion between when things were purchased versus being paid that were supposed to go on last fiscal years. But I believe at least what I have control over has been all straightened out. News and updates. The basement is cleaned out. Woo-hoo. It has been very much a group effort. I appreciate Reed Gardner going to the town and asking for help. Colin has been very instrumental in helping with that as well. I don't think we'll get dinged on our fire inspection next year. Also, the upstairs is mostly organized. You can ignore the garbage still needs to be removed. That was taken care of within the last hour. Like I said, not to my standards, but it is very usable space right now. The upstairs electric has been fixed. The lighting in my office has also been fixed. I can actually see. Yay. I was able, with the basement clean out, to get a picture of our water line that the town of Lake Luzerne needs, and that's been taken and sent to them. My big thing is hiring a library assistant. I've had 6 applicants so far. They still have a couple more days. Our stats, we've been very busy. We've had 6 programs, 67 total in attendance. We've had a total of 716 patrons and 10,075 circulations. You'll see down there also my drawer deposits and my expenditures and the list of programs. The one I'm super proud of is we had Danger the Dino Wrangler back, and we had 31. For me anyways, that's a record. I don't know if it is for the library, but it is for me. We were pretty happy. Items to discuss. This occurred to me the other day. I don't know the last time it was done, but the cleaning of the furnace, I don't know if we have somebody or if Waterhouse's fuel oil does, but we may want to make sure we have that done before cold weather comes along. I have an estimate to update the lights, working on getting 2 more, basically keeping the same fixtures, bypassing the current system so we can have LED, and it'll be a softer light, which will be much nicer for everyone. This is probably an executive session thing, but looking to put together an employment agreement for Claire and our future employee. Handyman. We talked about having a handyman. I don't know if that's something that we are still willing to talk about. It would be helpful because I have some small projects that a handyman would be very helpful to have. And you guys have here, it's, there's 3 different packets from Mahoney Notifier. I know you guys are gonna have to look at it, look over it. But these are estimates on the proposal for updating our existing security system that is out of date. I know this, we're not doing anything with it tonight, but I want everybody to have it, to be able to look at it,
Mhm.
so we can move forward with that. As we already talked about the policies, the purchasing policy does need to be updated, especially since we've decided we're not gonna do a credit card. And that gives a policy there's a policy in there for using a credit card. So we need to update that. And to that end, and this may be under your old business, Ted, the purchasing card that we've been talking about.
Yes.
Wondering if there's a big difference between that versus designating the current petty cash account to become a purchasing account instead, and adjusting the allotment monthly. I don't know if that's a big thing that we can do or not. It's just something, a thought that crossed my mind, so I figure we will throw it out there.
We'll talk about that in business.
Okay.
Okay.
And then just a little update further with the hiring process. Because I have 6 applicants. Some of them have no library experience and no children experience, so I'm not sure they're ones that I'm really gonna be able to consider. I have spoken with civil service, and I have spoken with Schuylerville Public Library, that is also a school district library. I think it's the last page is, what's in red was my slight adjustment. They created a new civil service position, calling it a library program coordinator. And for me, the big difference is the qualification is an associate's degree instead of a bachelor's degree. And I think the bachelor's degree may be limiting us a little bit. I'm going to have interviews before I make this decision, but Candy Plumley wanted to make sure the board was okay with this before we move forward. And I just wanted to keep expediting things moving forward.
So let me understand it. This would be the job description
Well,
or?
yeah, it was approved by Saratoga County. Civil service, except she wanted teen and adult services, that's why it's in red. I want it to be children and teens. Other than that, it's verbatim. So at the very least, it's a good jumping off point. And Candy seemed to be on board with it.
In the job description as you posted it, it required a bachelor's
By
degree.
bachelor's, because the title that we went with, when I discussed it with Erica at Sal's, she said that it sounded mostly like a library assistant. And that's the civil service term has that, and they require a bachelor's. I do have one applicant that is a possible good fit, but she does not have a bachelor's, she does have an associate's. And civil service is, no, we're not budging, you can create a new position, but we can't alter this one.
Okay.
So,
It sounds like this is a good idea too.
So that would change this minimum qualification at the bottom of.
right,
Just to-
that's the only thing that would change it, would reduce the educational requirement to an associate's degree from a bachelor's. So it would open the field for us.
But we have to create,
Would we have?
I guess I'm
we have to-
confused.
We would have to create a new position, yes.
okay. Would that be better?
I think so, yes,
Be more candidates?
yes.
Okay. And to create the new position, is there,
I have no idea how long that it takes. After speaking with Erica today, she said a lot depends on how quickly civil service will do things. But I'm hoping that they'll be like, hey, this was already approved in Saratoga County.
okay,
I'm hoping,
okay.
hopefully there's not some kind of a rivalry between Warren and Saratoga County that I'm unaware of.
So what you're waiting for, you mean, what might take time is them, is for civil service to post this position?
They have to technically create the position, but I'm hoping that this makes their job easier. And then I would have to re-advertise, yeah.
Well, if it opens the field, then you get.
It opens the field, yeah.
It seems
I'm
reasonable.
still gonna interview, I have at least 2 candidates that are good possibilities that I'm going to interview, hopefully within the next couple of weeks.
Okay. All right, I got 2 other questions about the report. These 3 copies of the deposit transactions, those were the only deposits you made since last time?
Yes, there
Yeah,
was,
okay.
there was one this Friday that we missed because it was a busy Friday and it got to be 5 o'clock and oh crap, the bank's closed, we forgot, so.
And this may be a good thing to talk about later when we get into our report. And
But
then-
everything was deposited.
Okay. Yeah, no, I understand.
I just,
Yeah,
the bank's not open on Saturdays, so
sure. And then, that last thing that Colin wrote in terms of the, lighting and outlets and so on, that also took care of the lighting in your office?
yes,
Okay, so that's it for that
yes,
particular engagement?
Right, yep.
Okay.
yep,
Yeah, that was
there's,
within your purvey at below the 1,500.
right.
Yeah.
And it was also, we decided that the upstairs was considered an emergency because we had no electrical on that one side and we needed to find out what was going on.
Yeah, there's no outlets.
Yeah.
All the old wiring was cut away from the panel.
Okay,
Yeah.
no, I think that made good sense. And
Yeah,
that's
okay.
safe now. That's good.
So, and just,
Okay.
under programs, just to give you guys a heads up, didn't give you a copy. The Historical Society has contacted me, and we are going to be getting the American Experience, from the Daughters of the American Revolution. It's gonna be an interactive display that'll be set up in this room it's looking like now it's gonna be 2 weeks, but now it's gonna be mostly for the month of September. It's of no charge to the library. We're just providing the space.
Okay. Okay, questions, discussions about this? Now, you gave us the stuff from Mahoney in terms of updating the alarm system, and it looks to me like it comes in 2 different flavors.
There's 2 different ones, yes.
Yeah,
I think
the
one is
basic-
just updating
What we have,
the current system, and then the other is adding, we have smoke alarms, in our building, but nothing is tied to the local fire department. So we would literally be at the mercy of our neighbors to notice that the building was on fire and call the fire department, where this would wire us right into them. Same thing with the CO2. And then I believe water is also on there, because one of the things we noticed with cleaning out the basement is our stone walls are very permeable, and sometimes the rainwater gets in there. And the other thing he pointed out was the hot water tank, if that were to ever go when we weren't here, it would detect that. So he said we can tweak it if we want to, but this was his initial, and it's also, I believe the one
so,
updating the system we have is also adding some sensors, because we have some blind spots.
so we don't actually, it's my beating the dead horse, but we don't have a facilities committee to really analyze this. I wonder if Mahoney is willing to appear before the board and discuss why this has to happen. And, what do we got, and what do they want to do, and why is this the right solution? I guess when I read this, I guess maybe it's just me, but I can't come to a conclusion as to why are we doing this versus that, or both, and what's wrong with the system that we, some background in terms of that thing. Do you think they would do that for us or not?
I can ask them.
Well, that's just saying, it's a
I do
fairly substantial
know some
expense
of
to-
the things, like that door there, Claire and I came in one morning and it was open and I didn't get a phone call. I didn't-
Yeah,
There's nothing there to detect it, and the one in that room is too far away to detect it.
it would seem that, that if they could tell us a story in terms of why this has to all happen, it's just fairly significant expense to that. When you look at
It's heavy, there's no doubt.
Yeah, I mean, these are
I'm
things
not-
we had to necessarily.
What,
not
do
saying
you
it's-
know what we're paying right now?
What's that?
Do you know what we're paying right now?
Yeah, what do we pay right now? No,
Not very much.
No, I think, is it like $100 a quarter or something
Yeah,
like that?
not much. Because we haven't got much,
So this is,
The other thing with updating the panel where we punch in the code to come in,
yes,
once that's updated, then we can have the multiple access codes that you want to have. Apparently, the system that we have right now wouldn't facilitate that.
they told me it would when we had that
Well, the guy that
discussion.
came in said no,
Yeah.
so, I mean, maybe a good idea to talk to them and get some clarification.
Yep.
He did leave me his business card. So, but when they came, this all started when they came, because we got a faulty alarm, and it was a faulty sensor. And the sensor got damaged, and we didn't even know that it had been damaged, so, and then he said, everything's just kind of outdated, we've got blind spots where people could, I don't know that anybody would, but if somebody were to break into the library, they could do something before being detected. And
How does the board feel about that? Is it, think it would be worth having them come in
Yeah,
and
yeah,
do that
I think that's a
explanation?
good
You think
idea.
that makes a good idea?
Yeah.
So could you follow up with them on that
Yep.
and see if they may come to the next meeting?
sure,
And then we'll
Yeah, I
have some
think we
better,
gotta do something.
we have some better information. I mean, I'm agreeing that the alarm system probably has deficiencies and so on,
Oh, yeah.
but it's just the right answer. And what is it that they want to take us from here to there? I guess that's where I'm coming from. Make sense? Okay. All right, any other questions or discussion for Marion on this report? Pretty thorough. Anything else? No, okay, we don't actually accept the report, we just, thank you very much for the report.
Thank you, Mary.
Okay. Okay, all right, moving to old business. We have this issue of the maintenance bids. Now, we had a little confusion last time in terms of those bids, and you and
Yeah, because
Josh were
the,
gonna straighten them out.
our attorney was gonna lay out what we should be, how we should handle it.
Okay,
And of course, we haven't seen anything from that, you know, I mean, in his perspective. I got somebody that I had talked to that would do the plumbing, heating, and electrical.
okay,
But, you know, I was kind of waiting to see if he was gonna send us a pamphlet just to double check on that.
all right. So we want to defer that till you get more information?
Yeah, if we could get some more information from him on that.
Okay, all right,
I got a local company that would handle
okay.
it all.
All right, so we'll look for some more information in advance on the next meeting and then we can discuss that. Okay, everybody okay with that?
Mhm.
All right. Okay, purchasing card. Now, when we were in the last meeting, you know, we were still moving in the direction of a purchasing card. And then we held off for some reason.
I think
I was trying to locate something that we could use, and, you know, it's almost impossible for what we want. I mean, you can go over and get like a card at Glens Falls National, say for $250, you know, paid in advance. And then she could use that, and then when it's gone, we'd have to replenish that.
We're doing that with petty cash.
Petty cash,
Right.
so I'm just saying, I don't know, I mean, petty cash seems to be working fairly good, except,
But
Except
the idea
for,
was that she would be able to make purchases, so it would
Right,
have to be
see, so-
1,500.
right. So, I mean, you could put as much as you want on that card. I guess I wanna, go and discuss it in more detail with them as far as there a number on it, so, you know, like a credit card's got a number on it. I'm not sure if this kind of card would have that or not.
it does.
It
looks-
does?
Yes,
Okay.
it's like, I don't know if you have a debit card with your bank, but it looks just like, it can be used as a credit card. It's usually a Visa card. It has a number, it has an expiration date. I believe it does have my name on it, but it's associated with the Rockwell Falls Library.
and we do not have that card at the moment.
Yes, they do.
Oh, you do? Oh, all
For
right.
the petty cash?
Oh,
Yeah,
just for the petty cash.
for the
Okay,
petty
so
cash,
if we
but
increase it-
it's a debit card that can be used as a credit card, but the money comes right out of the bank
And
account.
would that satisfy the need when you need to have a credit card to make purchases,
Yes.
businesses that don't bill us? And is the amount sufficient?
Well,
Well, you're only authorized up to $50.
only authorized up to 250.
250.
Most places will invoice, you know, like
Yeah.
Demco invoices, the books invoice. Occasionally we run into, some, snafus like we did with ordering the new, bookmarks, you know, with the new hours, when we changed the hours, when we bought the shelving for upstairs. You know, so occasionally there's an issue. But for the most part, the $250 seems to be working.
All right, well, but
I mean, but I don't know that I would consider it petty cash. I don't know if I need petty cash. You know what I mean? Because anything I need to purchase for the library, whether it's, I mean, from needing a new pen,
sure,
you know, to garbage bags, to, you know, maybe some decor or whatever, I mean, I can use the debit card. I can go across the street and
Mhm.
use the debit card. I've used it at Dollar General. I mean, I can, anywhere credit cards are accepted, I can use the debit card.
The reason we were looking at a purchasing card, no, just ignore it.
Oh, okay.
It's my fault.
Okay.
The reason we're talking about a purchasing card as opposed to just using the debit card is because, debit cards are not as protected as credit cards or purchasing cards in terms of fraud. Maybe the protections are much better now and that's not an issue. But that was part of the reason. And maybe Glens Falls National can tell you that they have those same protections that and it's fine. I don't know, just, it used to be, people say, don't use your debit card, use your
Right.
credit card because it's much better fraud protection. So if we're talking about, Marion is authorized to make purchases of up to $1,500. So if we're talking about a
Right.
card with $1,500 on it,
Right.
you know, it's just a different.
What do you think?
Instead of the 250, go to 1,500,
We could do
If we're
that.
protected,
as long as we got the receipts that you're issuing us at each meeting, I've got no problem with that.
That would solve this.
that would solve the
Issue.
problem, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah, and
as long as
You're
it's got
concerned
good
about-
fraud protection, is all I'm saying,
Well,
because
yeah,
it's
no.
attached to a bank account that has a lot of money in it.
So
Sure.
when that gets hacked, it
So
goes right
that's
into the bank
hacked,
account, not
they're
just
in our
to
bank
the
account,
credit
they're
card.
not.
Right, where you can't get near
you
it.
can't get in, yeah, right.
No,
Yes, they can. What do you mean they can't get near our bank account?
I mean, this card that she's talking about, that I'm assuming it's got a totally different number on it than
But
that number.
Yeah, we get two
the
separate
hackers
statements,
can
yeah.
go from that.
But
if
it's the same account.
It's the same account right into the bank account.
That's the issue with the debit card.
That's why the credit card is more protected.
However, we can't have a credit card.
Right.
Right,
No,
but
we
a
have to-
purchasing card is the same,
I mean,
has that same.
I'm not trying to say that it has to be one way or the other. I was just trying to throw out an option to try to simplify things because this seems to have been a complicated matter. No complaining or anything but on my end,
Mhm.
just,
Is it working?
it's working. But I mean, like I said, most of the time, $250 a month is plenty.
Sure.
And there might be a month where I'd be like, well, I want to order this, but I don't, well, it's okay, the month's almost over, it's not urgent, I can wait till the next supply comes in, you know what I mean?
The other thing we could do is keep it at 250, and then when Marion has something to do, then we could add to it as we did with the shelf. She
Okay.
needed to make a bigger
That would
purchase,
have
and
to
so
be
we
safe.
put money on that.
I think you're right, yeah. So no action needed at this point, other than the fact that our policy as written talks about our credit card,
Right,
and that policy needs to be revised.
it needs to be revised,
We'll
yes,
have to revise that policy.
yes.
That's a pretty simple thing though. Okay. Anything else to deal with on this report? Concerns? Anything? Okay. Purchasing card, last one now, Colin, I guess this is yours. The changing of our insurance
Okay.
company.
Um,
This one is a toughie, I guess.
This has been a struggle for us. As everybody knows, the insurance company had been dealing with Utica. Last month sent me a letter saying they're no longer gonna write us a policy. So I got on the phone, stopped and talked to some different people. Marion it's got some response from Tiffany there that's handles the commercial account that says they're no longer gonna write us. Told us we better start looking. And then they came back with some stuff and the prices are just astronomical. I mean, one part of it, if I'm not mistaken, she said it was $50,000, right?
Yeah, she said that we could be paying.
So anyways, I've spent a lot of hours and time right here next door to us. CDL Associates, and they have written up a policy that, in all honesty, was probably better than what we even had for less money. So I feel that we gotta make a motion, or I'll make a motion that we go ahead and go with this. If anybody wants to look at it, they're more than welcome to. Tell us exactly what it's all entail, how much coverage we've got and everything that it is covered.
Is it at least the same, if not better,
Yeah.
in all categories?
Yeah,
And it's less money
there's less money,
than the previous one?
correct.
Seems like a no-brainer.
I think it is, but here again, if somebody wants to, we still got 10 more days to shop around if somebody wants to pursue farther. They've been very cooperative. I've learned a lot from them. One thing, and I'm not trying to upset anybody here, but they highly recommended that anybody that comes in here does a program that is receiving a payment from the library should have their own insurance policy. They made that very clear. We shouldn't be thinking that they're gonna ride us on our policy. They are some sort of a organization that's getting paid. And then here again, I don't know if that's probably a second part of this policy, you know what I mean? If the board wants to discuss that tonight or at a different time.
I'd like to get a readout from the attorney on that, just,
Yeah, that's fine.
Just,
I'm just,
yeah. And would that be only the people that are providing programs where they're getting paid? If we have a community organization that comes in and uses the library, but there's no payment
Correct.
associated with that, that's just like people coming through the door,
that's correct.
taking books and so on and
That's
so forth.
correct.
So it's only on a program.
People that are
paid
receiving
program.
a check.
I believe most people who do that kind of thing have to have liability insurance anyways. I believe it's a state law.
Well, let me just run it by him to be absolutely certain, so we're
There's,
clear.
you know, if it is a state law and then the attorney says, yes, this should be the way it is, then I feel that from now on, they need to show that to you, Marion, or
Yeah, sure.
whoever,
Give us a certificate.
whatever the event is, you know what I mean? So we know
Sure,
that they are covered.
sure,
Okay,
makes sense to me. All right, so you made a motion.
I'll make a motion that we go with this policy.
Second to that motion?
I'll second.
Second
Um,
to, any
Did we
discussion?
talk about, okay.
I was just gonna say, you said it was CDL Associates.
And where are they? Right down?
Right here, right across from Stone's Pharmacy.
That's right, okay, yeah, okay, I know where they are.
The name of the company is Erie Insurance.
Is what?
Erie.
Erie,
Oh, okay.
ERIE, yeah. They're a good company that I know of.
Erie, okay.
We had discussion.
Can I
And
have
they can seamlessly take it over when this other policy.
That is correct.
starting on the first
Yeah.
of
We'll have to give them
September.
a check and then they'll get it ready to go.
Is this something we can pay annually, or are we gonna continue to pay monthly? I know we talked about that a little bit.
You know, we can make payments. As monkeyed up as things have been with Del Lorenzo Accounting, I just assume pay it once a year or pay 6 months and then another 6 months. I mean, for the nonsense that's been going on here lately, the paper trail just isn't, it's a chase, as you know, Mary.
Mhm.
So are they open to that, CDL? I mean, they can go with maybe 2 times or one.
Yep, they can go with monthly or they can go now and the rest of it 6 months or whatever. I mean, I
What do you recommend?
at least pay half of it now and the other half in 6 months or pay the whole
Right.
shot. I don't care. It's just the paper trails for some
Yeah.
reason. I mean, look at our water bill just last month.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, that's
Do we
another-
gain any savings by paying it annually?
Oh, yeah, you're saving, instead of paying it monthly, yeah, you're saving yourself. I don't
There's
know whether
usually a
it's
fee.
$10 or $11. I'm sorry.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, okay, so there's even a
Yeah.
savings.
Oh, yeah, there is savings.
Why wouldn't we do it annually?
I would say pay it, you know,
And that's
and
done.
see how it goes.
Right.
And then we're not, you know,
You okay with that?
not
I'm okay
giving
with
them.
that.
All right, I'm just, check, okay.
I just, the thing with the rider, should we talk about that or not? The rider issue?
Yeah, we can. I mean, it's just basically stating that, you know, in the old policy and this one here, they brought it to my attention that the Hadley Lutheran School had a rider on our policy here at the library.
What
So-
does that mean?
So
What does that mean, they have a rider?
they've got insurance covering us on top of our insurance.
Oh, okay,
Just like if somebody coming in to do a program, it's got insurance, and say something happens and it's not enough, then it rolls in our insurance. But, so I went to the school and I talked to them and they had to get a hold of the school attorney and they said, no, we don't need to have this with the library anymore. So they said, go ahead and take it off. And the reason they had it is because they were doing programs where they were bringing a lot of students down here, along with either a teacher or an aide or something, doing a program. And that way, if something happened, we've got enough coverage between the school and us. So they said, they made it clear, Colin, go ahead and take it off, and if something, they start coming down here with programs, then they'll reinstate it.
So, I'm sorry, the insurance company said to take it off. Is that what you're saying? Not the school.
The school's attorney.
The school's attorney said. Okay, I wasn't clear.
Go ahead and take it off.
So,
And I was like, well, wouldn't it be nice if teachers brought kids
Yeah.
down for programming, so then you could just put it back on?
Yeah, because that's actually something that I'm hoping to work with the, we didn't get much of a chance to do it in the spring, obviously. With the school librarian, we plan to work together, and with this historical display that we're gonna have for 2 or 3 weeks, I was really hoping that social studies teachers were gonna be bringing their kids down to look at it. It's interactive, and really wanna have a partnership with the school. I know the librarian and I, we still got some details to work out, but we're hoping to be able to share our collections so that the kids have more access to more books. So I don't know how all involved that is, but I'm really hoping that the schools.
Well, I think,
Is there a cost to it?
no,
They
but
pay,
they just felt that if it's not needed, don't have it on there.
Well, if we're getting that.
So if we come back to that, I've got no problem stepping up to school and saying, hey, let's get this back in,
Okay.
especially if they're gonna come down here as an organization and a program.
Right, and I don't want that to keep them from coming.
No, I don't need it,
You
not
know,
by any means.
because
I'm just trying to cover,
no, no,
this insurance thing is just like,
I know, it's a big headache.
oh, it's
I know,
terrible.
and can be very confusing. But yeah, no, because I got this one historical thing, this is September.
You know, and I hate to even bring it up, but I mean, Utica's right here, front page, you know, made it pretty loud and clear. It's, they didn't want to rewrite us because of, claims.
Right. So your motion, just to be clear, is to move from Utica to CDL, Erie,
Harry, yes,
without the rider.
correct.
Okay. So everybody understands that? Clear?
Yeah,
Okay.
and we're gonna pay him in full.
And we're gonna pay it one shot
Yes.
when due. Any other concerns? Okay, so we have a motion on the floor for that. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Done?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Okay, new business. I'd like to introduce Mr. Robert Camolia, Brian Camolia. Everybody from the board, I hope, has the audit,
Yep.
right?
I didn't print it. I read it. I
Correct.
read it. I
I got a
wrote my
copy right here
questions.
for you. That's fine.
if you need to refer.
So, I was just talking to Robert a little bit beforehand, we're just to make sure everybody understands. We were gonna do a financial audit. We got to the point of digging into all of the details and so on and so forth, and you were not in a position to be able to issue an opinion. You were not in a position to be able to issue even a qualified opinion.
Correct.
So we decided that if you were agreeable and the board was, and we were, to switch from a financial audit to an operational audit.
Correct.
And that's what we have in front of us, is this, and it's a result of your having dug into all of
All
the
the
things that were problems that you saw in 2023, that was fiscal 2023. And as a result of that, we have in here a whole series of observations and recommendations. And
So it's more of a compliance type audit, where you go through, you look at what's going on within the organization, you do recommendations based on the observations we came across. But it was very difficult to give an opinion, like you said, in
Yeah.
regards to any of the information.
okay, so do you think that the most efficient way for us to go through this is to just look quickly at your recommendations and to see, my sense, having read it, I don't know what the rest of you thought, since fiscal 2023, since our difficulties, since we've taken over, there are a number of things we've done that probably are exactly what you recommended. And then there are probably some that aren't, and maybe we need to understand how to go forward.
Correct.
Does that make sense?
That makes sense
That
to
way?
me, rather than read everything, give you observations. However,
Sure.
I'll take your lead in whatever you'd like me to do.
Okay. Okay, so you want to look on with me, so, and,
I just wrote my questions down by pages, and that's all.
oh, you
Can I
did,
give a summary if you want, if that's easier?
okay, if you want to do that, and then we can talk one by one.
Yeah. Basically, as I saw today, your bank reconciliation review procedures, you guys go through the process and have, basically present the warrants, approve the warrants to be paid. With that said, our recommendation is when you're reviewing the bank reconciliation, every transaction that you've indicated on those warrants, someone should be reviewing to make sure that's what was actually paid and that they were paid within the bank statement. That's the first recommendation. So whoever is doing the bank reconciliation should make sure whatever you've approved here is actually what's being paid. And if something's not in there or something's different, that should come back as a question at your next meeting, et cetera, at that point in time. And that should be your sign off on that bank statement.
I do that with the petty cash account. Do you do it with the other account?
I look at what's in our bank accounts, yeah. Comes
Yeah.
back to us.
Right.
What I was saying, like a warrant you approved tonight, say the warrant you approved tonight. So everything that was on there, make sure those were the things that were paid. And if you saw something that, like a lot of fire districts, all fire districts, for that matter, through the state of New York, they're mandating that they go through and they approve every disbursement that was authorized to be paid to make sure that's what was actually paid to the vendor and the amount. So that's kind of what our first recommendation is
So
there.
that's a basic reconciliation of the statement, well, you
Yep.
did that, Colin, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I wonder, should I get a printout back from Del Lorenzo Accounting?
You should see the
Everything.
bank, D. Lorenzo's the one doing the bank reconciliation process. You should get that back and then look at what's reconciled to see that you agree, because you're looking at the account itself. You should see everything that was on there, there's nothing unusual, or if you didn't see something that should have been paid and wasn't, you could bring it up at that point in time. That could avoid penalties, it could avoid all the things that you talked about today.
Okay.
And that's the actual document that the bank produces.
That's actually what QuickBooks will produce. QuickBooks
And
will
QuickBooks will do that.
QuickBooks will produce a report, it's called the Bank Reconciliation Report. And that's a report that you guys at the board should get every month to see, one, they're reconciling it. And it says, here are all the cleared transactions, and here are all the uncleared transactions. All the cleared transactions are what you should have, for the most part, I mean, timing differences is what you approved in those warrants.
Okay,
So if you didn't see something on there, you could ask that as a question.
that's doable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's-
Okay, well, that's, all right.
Second thing was, and I think just in regards to adequate documentation for the expense transactions, there were a lot of transactions that did not have that adequate documentation. And that's kind of where we came back. It was very difficult for us to even give an opinion. We can't receive support for that. So with that said, our recommendation is just make sure that you have that documentation. So if D. Lorenzo County is getting that information, if all of it's attached, somehow you gotta work that they get that information back to you so you can file, so you have that documentation to support all those expenses.
Okay, so that's the one where you're saying invoices are attached to the warrant.
Correct. So we just have the invoice. So if you have the invoices attached to the warrant, that suffices. But there was a lot of that documentation we could not see in our
I'm sure of
process.
that.
What I do currently when we get a bill, it gets emailed to Tammy at De Lorenzo's. And I make 2 copies, one that I file under, if it's supplies, it's books, it's under the correct category. And then Colin gets another copy that he keeps, and I also give him the copy of the bank statement when it comes in, so he can.
That's great. Okay. So you'll have a backup for what they have. So that's even better. Yep, that's a good process to have.
I do the same thing with the petty cash. I keep receipts in the petty cash accounts file that I then staple to the statement that comes so that they're all together and then also divided amongst the proper categories.
Well, it might be an easier process if you organize it by vendor versus the program. But it's up to you. That's your preference and go from there.
You talked about keeping them in a secure location.
Correct.
We have a locked file that only is accessible by Board of Trustees members.
Yep.
So if we put those in there,
That'll be suffice.
that'll
Yep.
okay, so that's what we call our red file.
Yep.
Right over there.
That just allows for someone not to go in there, take something out, things of that nature,
Right.
and you control the key
Okay.
amongst each other. Next observation, related to, supporting document, the authors, besides the document. Well, this was really, there was a lot of stuff that was documented in the minutes to approve, but there were no expense transactions. So it kind of follows us along with the same information we had before. So I think we've already covered that.
So when we do our minutes, or when we approve the warrants here and vote, and that's documented in the minutes, is that sufficient?
That should be sufficient enough, as long as you have that reconciliation process I talk about, that you're ensuring that all that, someone at that point is already looking at the disbursements, is that correct? I just want, so
Yeah, he gets all the bills and
I
he,
get all the bills,
you approve that,
organize it.
Yep.
right,
Yep.
and
And then the
then,
board approves it,
that suffices
then it
enough.
goes down.
For payment?
And then as long as you have that reconciliation process, that everything you authorized was paid,
Okay.
cleared, which shows on the QuickBooks report,
Okay.
that's a perfect procedure, and that's acceptable to the state of New York, in regards to their policies and procedures that they have.
But are you saying that that should be attached to the official minutes? So when the minutes are posted, it has those records on
You
them?
could do that if you'd like, however you think, I think it's
I was just asking if that's what you're recommending.
satisfactory enough would be is if you are the person doing that review and you're initialing, you're doing that review, that's suffice enough.
Because what we've been putting in the minutes is basically the totals that we have
Correct.
approved, but we haven't attached, I wouldn't have attached columns, full report to the minutes,
Okay,
but I could if that's the recommendation.
recommendation on my part would be is that the board gets the bank reconciliation every month, a report from QuickBooks. DiLorenzo provides that to you, that's what they should provide to you. And then you have that a part of your packet, which you've already reviewed, and you could just say, here's attached the reconciliation, just in case any one of you had a question. Colin, no pun intended, something got missed or whatever, and someone else had a different question, it might bring something up, but really that's the best process that organization's doing, is attaching the reconciliation themselves.
Okay.
But if you thought it was too much, it suffices as long as a board member is looking at that, that suffices.
What do you think, Amy?
It's fine, it's just
It does.
attaching another piece of paper. It
Yeah.
does make it a public
Yeah,
record.
Yeah.
Sure.
so this is
That's
different than what
quick.
she's sending us right now then.
Oh, that's not a reconciliation.
No, that's just a
We are not
statement of
getting that
activity.
report.
No,
Okay,
that-
that we're gonna look into, and that's another issue.
That's a bank reconciliation reports to show that they are reconciling your cash account every month,
Okay.
Okay, yeah,
which is a very good procedure that should be done if they're doing the bookkeeping process.
right, and that's over and above the monthly statement we get from the
Correct.
bank.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you for clarifying that.
You're okay. We noted that certain things, and this more or less, if they're providing the statement of activities and things, we noticed in certain instances, there were certain expenses that are improperly categorized. Like there may have been a utility bill that was classified as something totally different instead of utilities. More or less that I'm not sure if they're providing a budget to actual report to you. Do they provide that to you?
Yes.
We
Yes,
just
okay.
started that, yes.
Okay, so that's,
And we just went through 3 iterations to make it right.
okay, so that
Yes.
was one of our recommendations as well.
We're doing that.
Yep, perfect.
Okay.
So that's kind of where that is, just because if you have the budget to actual category, if you see fluctuations, it allows you to basically go back and ask questions in which you can find some of those errors that are out there. So that would be one of the recommendations we would have. One that's not on here that I just know that I brought with me as just as a discussion point, going with cash disbursements, and it kind of goes with hand where there was one, some of the canceled checks did not have dual signatures. We saw there was some of them, there was a transaction that did not have a dual signature. That is your policy to have dual signature over a certain amount it was.
Can we change that?
We
Yeah, I think
actually
we changed
moved
it.
to the direction of making the treasurer the only signatory
Okay.
check.
Okay, which is fine.
We can, for larger amounts, mandate a dual signature, but our attorney has said we don't need to do that necessarily as long as the board approves.
As long as you have checks and balances in place, like you said, the bank reconciliation process, I would agree with the attorney, I'm okay with that.
Okay,
A lot of organizations still do, for protection purposes,
right.
have a dollar amount that they want to make sure that they're on board with, but as long as you are approving it, then I think that is an acceptable transaction. The only recommendation I would say is there was a transactions, there was a transaction made out to cash. You should never make a transaction out to cash.
Yeah.
I think you make it to the vendor, it alleviates anyone having any questions or anything that going.
And I think there's somewhere in one of our policies where this dual signature thing is still kicking around. We gotta go.
I believe it's under the purchasing policy that we need
And
to.
that probably just needs to be amended, which I think you already talked about.
Yeah,
We
because
did.
it talks about using a credit card, which we can't use, so.
Correct.
Yeah,
Okay,
Cash receipts, just in regards to, receipts and deposit transactions, proper segregation always requires to be a segregation of duties between the custody assets and the record keeping.
so how do we do that? Because,
So usually typically one person receives the cash receipts and then another person goes, they usually put in the log.
Well, Claire does it daily, the drawer sheet. Pulls out the excess cash that we took in. She gives it to me with a printout slip that our system automatically, and then, the goal is weekly. We're usually pretty good. Occasionally Fridays are busy and we miss the bank closing at 5. But they're deposited weekly, and then I paper clip the deposit slip from the bank to the week's worth of statements.
That's perfect.
And then at the board meetings, they get a copy of the
That's
deposit
correct.
slips, and if
That's what
they
we
want
got
to see
tonight.
anything further, they're in a file.
Yep, that is perfect process.
okay,
So that is done perfect. That's exactly what you should be doing in regards to the process. So I have no issues with that. Credit cards, I think you guys are already touched on that tonight. I would say debit cards though, from what I know from other organizations having debit cards, that they use it as a credit card and seem like as long as you're doing your reconciliation practices and you catch something, then usually the banks will honor that. So I'd be surprised if Glens Falls National would not do that for you, but that's something, you guys can look into, just hearing your discussion earlier. Payroll, there were certain hourly time, people were paid hourly, in which there really was no support to how much they were paid and having a timesheet or anything to back it. Our recommendation that is if you do have payroll, there should be some sort of timesheet, in general, that you're submitting saying, here's the hours, here's the amounts, and having a full process that's the amount that they should be paid, in regards to payroll.
We don't do that now. I've been doing some research on it. I did find some payroll sheets that I think will work.
Yeah, you don't have to have anything elaborate, kind of just list here's your hours and your days and things of that.
Yeah, I found
Just
it.
an approval
It's
process.
the hours, and then there's a way to track sick time and vacation time if you
Yep.
get that as well.
Yep.
And then, a place for the manager to sign, that would be me, but I know Ted would have to sign off on mine. I'm salaried, so.
Yeah, if you're salaried, your salary is already approved by the board, so I think that would be suffice enough. So that's really meant more or less toward the hourly individuals that are out there. QuickBooks, general reporting, just some of the things, and I think you've already maybe dealt with this. Transactions were being entered in the general ledger without a vendor name, a check number, identification of transaction of where the ACH payment was. So that's more on the dealer and on associates. So more or less, the only way to really see how they're entering that information is really to obtain a general ledger from them if that's what you wanted to do, which you have a right to request that if you wanted to see that all the transactions in the ledger are appropriately identified by the payee and et cetera. But maybe they've changed that going forward, but you should be able to see that.
I'm not sure they have, that's another item. Okay.
It's a report that they could easily provide to you. If they're using QuickBooks, all these reports can be emailed to you.
They
Yeah,
are,
they do.
they are, because we paid for it.
Yep.
We paid for the QuickBooks, but to my knowledge, they haven't sent anything.
Yeah, you could ask for a general ledger report. We see a lot of organizations request that, and that basically shows every transaction throughout the year that hits every account, whether it's cash, whether it's in your expenses, what's in utilities. So at any point every month, if you want to scan that and say, hey, I see a utility bill and office supplies, that shouldn't be there, you need to move that, that's something you can do.
So they base off, when she sends us what we've spent for the month and then the actual versus budget, she's pulling it off of that report.
Yeah, she's pulling, basically, there's reports you can do right out of, she's giving you a custom report or a standard report, which is a balance sheet, a profit and loss statement, and a budget to actual. There's another report called general ledger. And the general ledger shows you every transaction that was paid and any deposit that was made. And that's all the activity.
It's a push of a button.
That's it.
I think we should ask for that. Yeah.
So, and it just allows someone to review through, and really it's gonna lead into one of the other things that we say, any journal entries that are made over there, you should understand what the journal entries are that are being made, in regards to that.
That sounds like a good thing.
QuickBooks financial reporting, let's see, treasury report, which does balance sheet, income statement, as well as the budget to actual. It looks like you guys have already followed that, so that's something that you've already implemented in regards to that process.
We get it, but we haven't taken an official action here at the board meeting to say that we've actually reviewed that.
Okay, you should. It should be part of the, I guess, treasurer's report, whoever does the treasurer's report, should report, here's the balance sheet, which lists what our cash is. It's pretty simplified. And the statement of activities really would show, here's everything that was spent for the month.
Yep.
And versus what's year to date. And QuickBooks easily prints a report that shows you that, but that should be accepted each month by you as a board.
Sure.
Yep,
Okay,
it should be.
okay. All right,
Journal entries, as indicated, two ways to ask this. One is you're looking at the general ledger, and if you see a journal entry, because everything should go through the cash disbursement module or the cash receipts module in QuickBooks. So the only time you ever record something different would be through a journal entry. And typically, the only journal entries you may have to record could be related to payroll if it was not integrated. But for most parts, it's always good practice to review the journal entries, because if anything was to happen, a lot of times with cash, you have to make a journal entry to cash to correct it. So you're always looking to approve what those journal entries are within the modules of the software.
I'm sorry, what is a journal entry as opposed to
A journal entry could, like QuickBooks has like a check register. So if you actually say, I want to pay Colin Smith, just make that for him. You pay Colin Smith, and it basically automatically goes to the expense account that it's supposed to record. A journal entry, you've got to go in and type in, I want to make an entry to cash, credit cash, and debit an expense. So it overrides not putting it through the actual check register itself. Does that make sense?
it does, but I don't think we've ever seen a report actually.
No, but the general ledger would, if you got the general ledger monthly, it would tell you journal entries that are completed. And that journal entry might tell you if you had, a lot of times as an audit procedure we have to do is we always have to audit journal entries or make sure that there's no misappropriations.
so a journal entry is something that's other than the standard categories?
Yep, so
Okay.
not a category, standard check register. So everything in QuickBooks you enter through a check register or a deposit summary. You either receive a deposit or you get check register. So that automatically goes to a credit to cash and a debit to cash if you're reporting a receipt of something. So those are what always happens within the module. The only way to overwrite something like that is to make a journal entry in the system. And that's where sometimes fraud could occur by making a journal entry to cash.
Okay, man, and if we get the general ledger every month, we'll see them.
You would see that. You would say what journal entries are made to cash.
Yeah.
And that's where most people just approve, okay, I reviewed the journal entries that were made. I don't see anything incorrect, they're proper, and go from there.
But we would see that on the general
Yes.
ledger. Okay.
Yep.
So we don't need to.
Would that also help us, because I know there's been some,
QuickBooks can print a journal entry report too, so they can print that too.
right, was some confusion with, the disability insurance and workers' comp, and money that was supposed to go to the disability insurance ended up going to workers' comp. Would that something? we
You would
been-
see that in the general ledger. So the general ledger details every expense category. So it has utilities, and then it'll have every month what you paid for utilities. So if you saw, and that has every insurance account, so it had workers' comp and something else. So if you saw, hey, that transaction should have went to here, you'd see that in the general ledger report.
And you've seen it.
So that would be something good for us to definitely have.
And therefore, what the budget, the actual report does, it takes that general ledger and summarizes it into each major category. So insurance, workers' comp. So it gives you the totals only. The detail is the general ledger.
Gotcha.
Okay. Fixed assets, I know a lot of what you do here is cash basis and things of that nature. But we always recommend, and we do this for districts, other libraries to say, and I see what they're doing, they maintain what they call a fixed asset listing. Like, I know you got the building here, that is what it is. But if you go out and buy new equipment, okay, what's the equipment we have? And they start to say, okay, we bought a chair, and here was the cost of the chair, because the fixed asset should be based on cost, not based on fair market value. So as you pay the invoice, you know what you're buying. Usually if there's a limit in New York State, we do a lot of reports that are out there for New York State. Their minimum expense threshold is like $5,000, and a lot of the fire districts have implemented that. So anything greater than 5,000 that's purchased, they maintain a fixed asset listing. And therefore that goes on your balance sheet to say, okay, here's my assets that we have that are in excess of 5,000. Everything else you're expensing as an organization.
I've never seen one. I don't think we have it.
Yeah, probably isn't one. Probably have never had one.
Probably not,
We've
would
never
that
had.
also include inventorying the books?
Not necessarily. I mean, at some point, it's more or less going forward versus going back. I think it's more big picture things.
Okay,
Because it's an asset. So you have more than just the asset of the, your cash account. You have assets here. You have the building, you have the equipment you bought. So that's,
The
that's,
computers, the
yeah, the
furniture.
computers, the
I
printers,
believe
how
the,
many computers you have, how many printers. I mean, I would hope to think you'd see if somebody walked out with a computer or printer.
Right. and I believe our heating system was updated in the last couple of
Yeah, it
years.
just allows you to manage it from, you brought it up earlier, from a facility side too. Okay, how old is the equipment? When do we need to upgrade it? You can start to come up with a plan that 10 years from now, we need to update certain things, and we haven't done it in 15. So now it's getting close, we need to think about it. So it helps you from a board perspective to look at those assets that you have.
Well, with the books, they're also, every time we get a new book, it gets uploaded into the system so we can pull a report from
Yeah,
our computers. We'll say, you know, you have 17,000 books or.
yeah, and maybe
whatever.
you're just using that as your total for now, for that. But like I said, you can come up with a threshold. Most organizations adopt a capitalization policy. Anything over a certain dollar amount. I don't like to see organizations use 250 because you're just micromanaging everything and, but a minimum, maybe 1,000. And then anything great, but like I said, New York State, what we see with a lot of compliance reporting is 5,000 that's out there. Maybe that's a policy you adopt, but therefore you're only looking at the big, but if a lot of your items are smaller, maybe it's 1,000. I think going below that would just be a tedious process on your part. But it just helps you inventory what you have because it really is an asset to the organization. That balance sheet you get right now just has cash on it.
Yeah.
But you got more than cash. You have other items that are out there and it gives you an idea of what you have. And yes, is it a process that you got to develop the inventory? Sure, but it's a one-time type of thing. If you're able to produce a report and say, here are all the books, here's the listing, okay, that's your listing of the books. Now, anything going forward, computers and things like that you buy, you'd add to that. I don't know that I'd go back and try to find what was the actual computer cost 5 years ago or 3 years ago. That's not the process. You can estimate that if you wanted to at this point in time, but it's more or less going forward, getting a tracking to monitor it. So kind of start somewhere versus, try to recreate the wheel at that point. That makes sense? Investment policy, I think you're working on that or.
It's been approved by the attorney,
Okay,
it's in place, yeah.
And then the collateralization, I think you were working on, we saw that as well.
We actually got a letter, I think, from the bank that indicated that we're properly
Oh,
collateralized
good.
here.
Okay,
Did you see that?
I didn't know.
All right, well, we'll have to talk about that, because I remember we were asking for it, and when we went into the new ICS account, that's automatically collateralized, and there's some record that tells us that it is. So, yeah, we're protected from that perspective.
that's good. So I was gonna say, yeah, a lot of that is just making sure you have that monthly report that's provided to you on a monthly basis to ensure you're collateralized. Because most organizations will receive that monthly report from when they got it, or quarterly, or when that might be. But those are reports you should have on hand that you file away to show that you are properly collateralized.
Okay, yeah, I'm pretty sure we got that somewhere.
Yeah.
But, okay,
The only other thing I would say, just listening to you tonight, that like even in regards to the insurance, that, don't be afraid as a board that if you want to have payments come out of EFT, that you can do that. Organizations do that, authorize transactions to be paid. They have a list of here are the ones that we allow for EFT, and you adopt that as a policy as a board, but you're still receiving the bills after the fact to make sure that that's, that those are the proper amounts that are coming out, but you can do that.
I'm
Organizations.
sorry, Robert, what is EFT?
Electronically, just it comes electronically out of your account.
Okay.
So a lot of organizations will say,
Electronic.
I'd like
file transfer.
my utilities come out electronically. I'd like my telephone to come out, and you authorize it as a board. We allow these monthly amounts to be EFT'd out of our account. However, you're still being provided a bill to see that that's the amount that is coming out proper. So it cuts down the reporting that's having to be provided over to DiLorenzo and Associates. And then at that point in time, they're entering that information off the bank statement, which is adequate enough because you as a board have already authorized, those are the ones that should have been
We
paid.
do have some payments, I know that are pre-authorized, general, like National Grid. As soon as I send it to Tammy, she pays it. It doesn't have to be approved.
But that's not.
But it's not.
She does
That's not electronic.
But
Yeah.
she has requested that we set that up to be an automatic payment.
Which a lot of organizations, and you as a board, just say, adopt a policy as you're doing policy. Here are the payments that we'll allow to be done monthly. Basically, you're authorizing without seeing that invoice right away. But when you're doing the reconciliation, you're making sure and getting the invoices are eventually giving over to make sure that you're approved. But, that's typically organizations will do that.
Yeah, okay, I think once things stabilize, we may move in that direction. We found some real problems with stuff that was wrong.
Yep.
And we had to go back, and if it had been automatic, I think there were some automatic ones, and.
Yeah,
Anyway, okay.
so just know, I think where it comes into is making sure the reconciliation side is there, that someone's looking, hey, had this EFT come out, does the bill match it? And that's kind of where maybe some of the fallbacks were, is that wasn't being done.
Okay. Okay, wow. Any questions? Is your
No,
head
I-
spinning?
Yes,
got
yes,
questions.
it is. No, I don't have questions. You answered that, like, I had the questions I had, you were like hitting the buttons.
Yes, same here.
Hopefully that was helpful.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
I
very-
noted too, yeah.
It's nice to know that we're already doing things better.
That's right. That's right.
Absolutely.
That's right. And, yeah, that was the goal. Any other questions? I don't think it's, I don't know, that's the board. I don't think we need to approve this report. I mean, this is the report we've got. So we're
Yeah,
good to
it's
go.
that
We
we-
appreciate that.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
I think we paid you at this
Yep.
point.
I think we should be all set.
That's correct.
Make
We
sure it's
approved it tonight, so.
I'll make sure. we
It's on the approval list.
It's on the bill.
It's on the bill, yes, it's on
Yeah,
there.
it is.
It is, okay. It
And
is.
Colin will make sure it's reconciled with the bank.
Well, we thank you very much for appearing and doing that with us. It's really helpful. We may have a question or two. as
That's
we go
fine.
forward.
And
I'll
I
give
would
you about
say,
it.
I'm never, if you got questions, even when you're doing policies, if you want to implement a policy, we have so many organizations that have policies that I'm sure we have examples of them that are out there. So feel free to reach out to us in regards to that. Even in the one with CDs, there's a lot of banks out there that are offering money market accounts that may be just as interested, because money market accounts used to be pre-COVID. You couldn't take the funds out, but now they're just open check accounts that they're offering similar rates that are out there that you're not tied to a restriction. So those might be things you want to look at that are out there. I know little banks like First National Bank of Scotia, little bank out there, that's what they're offering, for things of that nature. So there's other things that are out there, but in regards to any policies, just know you can call me at any time. And Ted, you got my number and email, just email me and I can easily just provide you something,
Okay, we'll pick you up on that.
No problem.
Okay, well, thank you very much. We
I
really
appreciate
appreciate you appearing.
Yes.
Thank you, I appreciate everything. All right.
Thank you.
Okay,
All right,
good.
take care.
Have a safe trip back.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, last time on new business is the strategic plan. I got yours, I got mine. You were involved,
Yeah,
you were involved, so here we go. Marie, I just want you to help me out with a couple of things in terms of process. We've got the strategic plan. What are the next steps relevant to who gets this, what we adopted, somebody gets it, it becomes, where does it go?
The
What happens?
board approves it, it goes to Sal's.
Okay,
Sal maintains a copy and Sal's presents it to state.
okay, so Sal's does that for us,
Yeah,
we
that's
don't.
my understanding. That was my understanding when I spoke with them.
Okay,
You all approve, Sal's is our liaison between State Board of Education. We're required by the State Board of Education to have the strategic plan.
Correct.
So, and at the end, they have it.
Yeah.
it's my understanding, I'm happy to double check it if you'd like, but my understanding was we submitted to SALS. SALS collects them all from their jurisdiction, from their area, and they're responsible for presenting it to state ed.
Okay.
And might SALs have recommendations if they saw something that was insufficient, would they do something or they just collected it and said?
My understanding is they just collected it. It's
Okay.
on us to do it the way, it's on you. I have to stop doing that.
Yeah.
It's on you to approve what you want it to be. I would guess, I know that SALS does review it. They do read it. They don't just receive it and pass it on. They do review it. So, we don't have to do anything other, unless they would see something that was illegal or, immoral, then they would say something, but it's your decision and you supply it to state ed, just SALS does that step.
And just from my understanding, again, we normally, it would be a 5-year plan.
Correct.
But we only did a 3-year plan this year just because of all the,
Well, and the word normally is debatable too, because one always has the option of doing a 3-year plan or a 5-year plan. That's always an option.
I didn't know that.
It has been up until now, and my understanding is it still is.
Okay,
We elected to do a 3-year plan in part because we were late
Yeah.
with the updated plan, and a 5-year plan would take longer to prepare. It should, theoretically take longer to prepare. We also had some concerns about, not concerns, we were giving consideration to the fact that technology changes quickly, and we might be at a point with computers needing to be updated that we would do better to work with a 3-year plan rather than a 5-year plan.
okay. But at the end of this plan, we'll do another plan and we can make another decision 3 or 5. at that
A new
point.
one has to be created.
And then I assume, once we approve this, we'll put it on our website.
Goes on the website.
Yes, the previous plan is on the website,
Right,
so yeah, we
Right,
would,
so and that one then becomes history,
right.
so to speak, and then this is the latest. Okay, and,
And then we check to make sure we're checking off the items that are on
I
it.
think that's
Yeah,
important too.
exactly.
It's not
Yeah.
something, it should never be something that, is created, it's put on the website, and no one ever looks at it again. I mean, it's structured so that it becomes a set of, it becomes a guideline for what the board wants to accomplish.
well, I think there's two elements to that. One is to evaluate the performance of our library manager against the plan, and also the board. How are we doing in terms of moving forward with the goals and the recommendations that are in here? Okay, so I thought it was incredibly thorough and well done, and I understood it. And you all are
Yay.
ultimately part of it, so I really didn't have any questions, and I thought that the 3 goals were most appropriate. They were broad enough and in another sense specific enough to encompass what we've been talking about in general. So, did you have anything that?
Should we look at this 6 months from now, Ree, and just say, hey, this isn't happening or is happening?
That was what I would do if I was sitting where you all are.
Oh, that's right.
I think a lot of those things will be apparent just when Marion gets her manager's report. She'll automatically be reporting on some of those things.
Yes.
It's not really anything that's very new. When we're talking about programming, Marion she already reports on programming.
Right.
She's already doing some of those things. So it would be kind of a.
Yeah, some of the things that we talked about, some have already completed or started towards that, and so.
I mean, it'd be a very simple thing, for Marion to say, this month we did such and such, that,
Aligns with.
that
this goal.
aligns is the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
Aligns with, goal 1 in the strategic plan.
So I just have 2 things. First of all, where you have the whole survey and then we have the results. I would put results on that page. I mean, if you can change this. And then the other thing is, this is the first report I gave you. So on question 1, it just says Claire has compiled. And in the second report I gave you, I have all those words there, all those first words. So it's a more complete,
Okay,
it just has, for question number 1, it's much more complete.
okay.
So if you wouldn't mind changing that and maybe writing survey results on the top of that. That's the second report that I sent. Where I am is, okay, where we have the survey, First we have, the first 2 pages are the survey itself.
Yeah.
And then right after that, it has the list of questions. And for the first question, it says list the 3 words, and I just wrote Claire has compiled, because Claire compiled them for us, and that was in our initial, in one of our early meetings when I gave this report. But I've since revised the report so that it has all of the information. Yeah, the second one I sent was updated, so that it has all of those words listed, so that you could actually see all of it. And it also explained that this word chart on the front is based on the words that came up the most.
Right.
And it's nice to be able to look at that list, because it's really, I think it's informative how many times words like welcoming, inclusive, kindness, friendly came up in the list. And you can just see all of the words that.
And those are the words that we used to prioritize what the goals were.
Yeah.
The ideas that came up in the words most often, along with the comments, along with the open-ended questions, the answers to the open-ended questions, the ones that were most prevalent, that came up the most often, were the ones that we zeroed in on, and that's how we chose the goals.
Yeah, so I think that full list is really informative and should be included.
I
Yeah, I'm sorry, I
understand.
missed the change.
Yeah.
I missed, I got the word cloud
Right,
and added
But-
that, but I missed that there was changes.
yeah, so I would make sure you're using the most recent one. And then also in inviting constituent groups, we also spoke to all of the, we reached out to all of the churches in the area, and that's not on that list.
Oh, it should be.
Yeah.
It was on my list, so.
Yeah, it just got dropped off of lists.
Okay.
And I know you sent it to me and I didn't notice it when.
Yeah, I sent it to everybody, so
Yeah, no, I know, I didn't
Yeah,
notice it
okay.
until I looked
the
at the printed
churches was
report.
on my list, so that's my mistake if I didn't get it typed on there, that
Yeah.
I missed it.
So
in the list.
otherwise, Reed, great job in putting this together, and I love all the history that you put in.
Oh, yeah, that was
That's
terrific.
just really nice.
Well, can we approve it with those few changes? I mean, do we need to wait till?
No, we don't.
I don't think we need to.
I think we
need to-
can, is that all right with you, Colin?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, that's
What you'll
fine.
see in the list, as I said, is
Yeah,
just
yeah,
all of the
different
words
words.
that were mentioned.
And
And
how
that's
many
what this
times
word
they were
cloud
mentioned. Okay.
comes from.
And then add the churches, yeah, okay.
Okay.
I think
Okay,
that'd be great. All
well,
right.
I would make a motion to approve, this report with those 2 amendments.
Second down. Any further
Yeah.
discussion? No, I just want to say, I just think it was a lot of effort. And was done in really short order, and done extremely well. And we appreciate that. We absolutely appreciate that.
Thank
So
you.
it's one more step in bringing us back. So, good, I'll make those changes.
Yeah.
Just give us another sheet to put in here. We don't need to redo the whole thing.
Okay,
And then
No.
the updated one will go, now, do we put it on the website before sales season, or do we let them see it and see if there's any comment before we, what do you think?
I think we should make sure South doesn't have some sort of meat,
Yeah.
like, I don't imagine they will, but
Oh, if they, but just in case.
sure.
And then after that, then we can post it. And this is it.
so who is submitting it to Sal's at this point? That's gonna be Marion?
Sure.
I don't know the process, I'm
I don't
asking.
either.
Neither
But
one of us do.
Just send it to Sarah.
Yeah. One-
They know that we're, out
They
of
know.
compliance, so they'll be looking for it, I'm sure.
Sure.
I just wanna make sure that we know who's doing the next thing.
Yeah.
So you're gonna do that, Mary?
Yeah, I can do
Yeah,
that.
all right, once,
Once she sends me the updated sheet, yeah. You just
Okay.
email it to me and then I can
Okay.
email it to her. She doesn't need to get the pretty folder. You
and,
can just
and
email it to her.
I have an extra one.
when you do it, tell her, we're just anxious to get it on our website. I think we want people to see that as soon as we can, so.
Yeah, I think they'll be very
Don't let
happy
them
with it.
linger.
It's 100 times better than the previous. I mean, it's much more aspirational, it's much
Yeah.
more measurable, it's much more of everything
Absolutely.
more.
Absolutely.
I think they'll be happy with it.
Okay, all in favor, any further discussion? All in favor of approving this report as amended? And- Okay,
I
good,
did
100%,
too.
excellent. Okay. Okay, we are at the point where we can accept public comment. Sir,
Peter Brady,
yes, sir.
Happyville. I'd just like to say thank you and a word of appreciation to the new board and the new librarian for opening up the library and putting it on the right track. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Chris Blakely, and that's exactly what I was gonna say. You guys have worked really hard, and it feels it warms my heart that we're in the place we are, so thank you. I know how hard it is, and I know a lot of times it feels thankless, but know that we are so grateful that you guys have been willing to put up with all the nonsense and still come and smile, so thank you.
We appreciate that. Thank you for those comments.
And Rick Gardner. I have a couple quick things. One, I was gonna say a special word of appreciation to Colin for all his work on the insurance. I've been in that chair. There's a whole lot of hours that happen before you can report on anything, so just trying to know that I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
The second item has to do with Di Lorenzo and the services they offer. It was my experience, I came to understand that they have several services that they don't provide unless you specifically ask for them, i.e. the 1099 issue that we had.
Yep.
It is something that they do, but unless we know enough, and I didn't, to know what to ask for, they don't do it automatically. You have to ask for specific services before they will do them. It's never been, and I know that Josh had a concern one time, he said that I had mentioned that it was something that Di Lorenzo would not do. That wasn't the case. It was that they don't do it unless you employ them to do it. So we should find out all the services that are offered, and maybe our auditor is a good one to ask about
Yeah.
that. One other real quick thing, and it has to do with the purchasing card again, and I want to make sure that I'm clear and that we're all on the same page with the $1,500. Did I understand that we're talking tonight about putting $1,500 on the debit card?
Only when needed.
My understanding is gonna stay at
It's gonna stay at
250 unless
250.
there's something special, like what we've done in the past.
Like we did with the shelf.
The shelving and with the new bookmarks,
Okay.
so on a case-by-case basis.
Okay.
But for the most part, the 250 is plenty, because everything
Yeah.
is invoiced.
Well, my thought had more to do with you being able to do what you need to do, Marion, and that was the idea of the $1,500 that Marion's authorized to make $1,500. That's not $1,500 per month, that's a $1,500 purchase without prior board approval.
Yes,
So that could happen more than once a month.
right.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that we were all in the same, I
Yeah.
want to make sure I understood.
Yeah, we understand that she is authorized to make purchases of up to $1,500. So if the window's broken, she can get it fixed. She doesn't need to come to us and.
So,
Right, but it's not $1,500 over the month.
Right.
It's one item or service.
Right.
If it's over
Understood.
$1,500, she has to come to the board for
Yeah,
approval.
we understand.
So I'm just saying that if you're gonna update the debit card, that needs to that could potentially need to happen more than once a month.
yeah, how do we do that then? If
That's
we
what
have
I'm
to
saying.
approve it, like
And-
if she needs money in that account, how does that, what's that
Yeah, right.
process? then?
So the P card, the purchasing card is not something that I've learned is available at a brick and mortar bank.
Right.
That's gonna be MasterCard, American Express,
Mhm.
Citibank, those things. So Glens Falls National, I already, I checked it, they don't offer that.
Right.
But if you want that, if you want a specific card that is a purchasing card, we've got to look at, you have to look at the major.
Big online
Yeah,
banks.
the big online banks.
Bank of
And we're not
America
gonna
has
They
a,
have one.
a branch in Saratoga,
Yes, they
and
do,
they
yeah.
have one, and they're not that far away if we needed to physically get there.
Okay,
Right, and I know based on the current purchasing policy, we've already talked about needing to be revamped. Because it talks about using a credit card, that there was a maximum of $5,000 for the credit card. And usually with a credit card, you have the 30 days. You know, if you max it out with those 30 days, that's it until you pay some of it down.
Mhm.
You know, or with the P card, we have to pay it completely. So, I mean, if that's something that we want to consider when doing it.
Mhm.
I hope you all know that I'm just very much a team player and want to do things the right way. And just whatever works.
I was just making sure that I understood because it sounded like, I apparently misunderstood. I thought you were talking about putting $1,500 on the debit card per month. And it occurred to me, she's authorized to do that.
Per
It could be, twice a week.
Yeah.
She stays within the budget line. Not that you would, but
Right,
I'm saying, if you needed a computer and it's $1,502, then that needs prior approval.
Right.
But you could
But you
do
bring
it.
up a good point, like, and how do we get
Yes.
that money on there
It
when
could
we're not
happen more than
meeting?
once a month.
Right.
So I'll leave that to you all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very-
Thank you. Okay, I move that we adjourn to executive session to discuss two items. One of which has to do with the plan that we're gonna put together to do your 6-month review, so you're not invited to come there for that. Sorry. And one other item that is kind of touchy, and we'll fill you in on it, but at this point, I think just the board should go into executive session.
Okay.
Okay, I
Okay,
move that.
second.
Okay, well, I think we need
So
to
that
say,
moves that I can go home?
yes, I think we need
Sure.
to say, I think the motion has to be that we're moving to go into executive session to discuss personnel and correspondence.
Correct. And I lost I lost my piece of paper on the table, I just printed it out before
Oh,
I.
wait, so who moved? Oh.
Ted moved, I
You
seconded.
Thank
All
you.
in favor? Aye. Okay, good, we're good. All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Reed.
Yeah, thank you.